Boom, we are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. Very exciting time in the markets. If you couldn't tell, we're looking very bullish. It's always good to be patient. You know, consistency and strategy, I think understanding that kind of always buy moment is really, really a helpful way to go with any beginner investor. For those of you that are more to the intermediate and advanced areas though, let's dive in and take a look at some of the fun stuff that we've been charting up in the background. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, which I'm sure there are not too many of you of, you will know, or may not know, I guess, that we're huge fans of the Wyckoff accumulation ranges. So right now I have on the screen a screenshot of accumulation schematic 4. As you can see the other day in phase D, when we broke above the falling wedge, I very quickly changed my mind and said we are no longer in any way think we're going down. We think only up, at least for the next little while. We are going to break into new all-time highs here, probably September, October, November, and I'm looking for a peak probably December, January. Now again, timing is not always easy. I'm just kind of making a hypothesis for now, so everything is flexible. So Bitcoin is looking fantastic, and Ethereum is actually really unique. Now, I did this one last night, right before it jumped back up. As you can see, the larger blue circle is the final phase D here before we continue much higher as well. I do have the moon charts on this cycle. I wanted to go over that just for fun. It is kind of arbitrary and it's not reliable, but it's always interesting to have extra data. Although I do think it is mostly noise to add data. The moon cycle itself is not noise, especially if you happen to know a group of women. You will very quickly recognize that it is beyond just noise. Okay, so we're going to go deeper into that. I wanted to point out that we are into the greed area again. We are out of the fear. On July 27th, we started to leave that fear. August 5th, we were still in the fear version around 42. And we've jumped out of that now into greed at around 65. So last week we were neutral. Not a lot of people thought we were bullish yet, but now we are definitely bullish. Everyone's getting the signals. So let's take a closer look at both Ethereum and Bitcoin. We're going to spend probably an hour here with you today. So here's that accumulation pattern on the 6 hour we were watching with Bitcoin. And I cannot stress enough the importance of having a good long-term investment strategy instead of trading. Most people get to this sector thinking that trading is how they're going to make their living, where investing is about building and generating wealth. And it also means that you have more time to do the things that you love. You know, throughout my career, there's been moments where I've had more money than I know what to do with, and those are, I'm not going to say they're depressing moments, but those are the moments where you really get to understand what you want out of life. And you're like, okay, well, I've bought my car, I own my house, and like I bought all the fun bracelets I want, or whatever, watches or whatever stuff you happen to like, sports cards, NFTs, collectors, whatever stuff you think you would want to spend your capital on. And then you realize that there's actually a lot more to it. And patience is this really beautiful virtue. In 2019, I got to spend a lot of time meditating with Naval Ravikant. Now, it was an absolutely glorious moment where I accidentally ended up in his world because of an ecstatic dance. And at the peak of it, I was doing around 4 hours of closed eye meditation per day with them. And there has been nothing more exciting to me in my life since then, well, aside from ice baths, than those moments. And I think it really goes to show that no matter how much money you have, one of the things I find most valuable is sitting and meditating. You can do no matter where you are in your portfolio cycle. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that's easy for you to say, Tio. You could, well, that's the point. You know, when you hear about people like Warren Buffett or specifically Ray Dalio talking about meditation and how much it changed their investment career, you shouldn't take that lightly. You should do it first. It's not a secondary moment. So I wanted to highlight that because happiness is not brought on by money. Now there is a different level, like at $100 million above, you can do whatever you want. Now at $100,000 a year, kind of the bare minimum, you can still do whatever you want, but you're not buying yachts or flying around in private jets very easily. Or if you are, it's kind of frivolous and a waste anyways. But the point of this is, the point I want to get to is that back here, when we had one of our first drops, we said, look, this is going to be a game of patience, where the main thing that's going to happen right now is the markets are going to try to bore people. The markets are going to try to flush out weak hands through stagnation. And we're still in that portion now. It's only been 83 days. Now, I first hypothesized that this could take upwards of 200 days for these kind of boring accumulation side cycles to take place. And we've seen a very, very quick one, an intermediary cycle, which is beautiful. It means that the next part of the bull market is also going to be very rapid. So I hope you are well positioned for that. Now, we had all of these signals come through, which again is very nice. So I've drawn them up back here, the reaccumulation schematics, and there are a bunch of these, right? So when we're studying, or I guess more so when we're being patient for the market, what you want to be doing is studying, meditating, hanging out with your friends, family, and loved ones. Don't get too caught up in staring in the 15-minute chart, being like, oh my God, if it gets to the 200-week moving average, it's going to blow up. Like, all that is basically worthless information, and all it will do is cause you a lot of stress, when what you could be doing is increasing your intellect, your patience, and I guess I don't want to call on that, but the virtuous aspects of what it is to be a human that money will never buy. Okay, so back into our trading ranges here. We've seen all the signals right now that we are extraordinarily bullish. Okay, we had our low volume spring. Again, there was a moment here where it looked like we could have dipped down to $23,000 for that. We didn't, and we moved up very quickly. As soon as we broke across this falling wedge that we have here, very similar to reaccumulation schematic 4 that we've gone over many times in our private group. Here, accumulation schematic 4 with our falling wedge here into phase C. And as soon as we broke across that falling wedge in phase D, we've seen this nice movement upwards. So how high do I think we're going? Well, that's kind of a fun part of the next question. You know, there's a lot of talk like, oh, we're going to $257,000 or something. We're in the middle of the market. And one of the best ways to kind of ascertain how high we'll go is more so about understanding the time it took to accumulate in the first place. So when we look at the larger time frame for Bitcoin, we see from buying climax to primary breakout, approximately an 1100 day movement. Now, one of the fun parts here is that I've said this multiple times, is that I believed that this was an SOS and that this was your LPS of this trading range. And what's nice here too is this actually very, very closely aligns to what happened in the 2017 bull market, where your LPS touched basically back towards your final regression lines in this area. Now, again, we could have gone as low as 19 grand, although that was unlikely. It was a possibility because that's where the final area of support was for this area. This LPS now is going to bring us a lot higher. And one of the ways I like to do this, at least kind of get a rough draft, is run from the buying climax all the way down to our selling climax. And that's what we see here, is that this first kind of segment brought us into the point, or the 3.618, a very, very high extension. We dropped back down to the 1.618 on a wick. And now the fun part here is we actually get to measure this next step. And this next step is going to be very, 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 very fun to ride on. So this next step has a few potentials. Now, again, the higher up into these we go, the more, let's say, overzealous the market becomes. It is very easily that we're going to get to around $120,000 Bitcoin, in my opinion, and I believe we'll max out around 180,000. Now, Bitcoin has always been able to do some really crazy upward moves, because when the market supply gets very thin, you don't need a whole lot of buying and selling to push the market price up very dramatically. So how would we want to measure that? Okay, well, let's take one more kind of outlandish grasp here, drag all the way down to our spring of our first selling, or all the way to our selling climax, and then go, okay, Because Bitcoin's been overzealous, there's a final target, and this is crazy greed, right? This is everybody's buying Rolexes and nice watches and yachts again. That's where this is. These two areas here. These are like extreme areas of greed between around $170,000 and $280,000. I believe after that, we will probably come down for a 2 to 3 year bear market cycle, very similar to what we've seen in pretty much every step of this bull market in Bitcoin, because it has not stopped, mind you. The Bitcoin bull market has only continued, right? Everything, and I've said this every time we've talked, is that when you look at the areas of down, or like, oh, it's a bear market, what you need to understand about the bear is that bears know how to accumulate and forage, right? So one of the bear's strongest like traits is to accumulate things, right? So the bear goes out and goes, hey, I know it's going to be a crazy long winter, so what am I going to do? I'm going to accumulate. And that's what you really want to understand the bear to be. Not like, oh, the bears are selling, like the bears are battling the bulls. That's like such horse crap, total misunderstanding about how markets. The original intention of understanding the bull and the bear, as far as I can tell, is that bulls run at the first side of red, whereas bears just accumulate and kind of like graze around all the time looking for dope freaking berries. You want to be like the bear. And technically, every single bull market we've ever had has been followed by what people call a bear market. But what you should do is call it the accumulation cycle. Between 2017 and 2020, it was not a bear market. It was a time to accumulate. It was a time to forage. It was a time to fill your fucking bear den with as many assets as humanly possible. You're like, well, Tio, that was, I wasn't here in 2017, or I was here in 2017. And I didn't know that. I thought the bear market was when things go down. I'm trying to buy the exact bottom. I thought the bottom was going to be $1,500. No, look, you take the same exact repeat idea back into all of these cycles. You go, okay, well, it's not a bear market, or rather it is a bear market, but what do bears do? They accumulate. Between 2014 and 2017, you should have been buying every single day that you had the opportunity to do so, whether it was $10 or let's say $10 million. Whatever fits your revenue stream, I guess. I don't have $10 million a month to spend, but I'm just being creating some hyperbole, I guess. But the bear market should be focused as a time to accumulate, because that's what bears are good at doing. The bear is actually your best friend if you understand the markets, right? Those who don't understand that are let's say, not too cognitively aware of the deeper emblematic symbols of life. Now, I spend a lot of time eating psychedelic mushrooms because it's one of my favorite things to do, so I don't expect everyone to have the same reverence for the bear that I do. But what does that mean? Okay, we are in the bull cycle still. We are in the cycle that has left the accumulation range. So, because we've had 1,100 days of accumulation, we can expect that we have approximately 600 days of bull market cycle. So we are only 253 days into this, and I believe by, at the very latest, by May, this market cycle will be over for probably 2 to 3 years of accumulation. So remember, the bear market means time to accumulate. The bull market effectively means time to take profits and buy whatever fun stuff you would like to, or play with your money, effectively. The bull market is the time to play. The bear market is the time to accumulate. Okay, moving on to Ethereum again here as well. We have hit all the signals currently. And what I wanted to go over here was just for fun, these kind of moon cycles, right? And it's very easy to think that, oh, look, every time there was a new moon, it was a great time to buy. Here, new moon, time to buy, full moon, time to sell. New moon, time to buy, full moon, time to sell. New moon, time to buy, full moon, time to sell. New moon, time to buy, full moon, time to sell. Well, no, not really, right? So right now, we are in the perfect place for Ethereum and Bitcoin to dramatically increase in price. Okay, let's roll through the rest of the fun assets here. Avalanche looking great. Falling Wedge, it's probably going to jump up to around $20. I'm a huge fan of Avalanche from an enterprise level. I think they will do very, very well over the next few years. I'm still very, very bullish about Avalanche, even though it had this big distribution phase. Soul Rise as well, falling wedge through the channel, holding above the point of control. Everything is looking bullish. 1 inch through the falling wedge, not as much movement, not as much growth, but nonetheless, that repeated falling wedge cycle seems to be there. Soul Rise, for those of you that are in the private group and are part of our venture capital fund, this is in the last 30 days, we are already up 130% since we took these positions. So congrats to all the Private Bear family who played along with this one. This has been a great performer for us so far. Mercurial did great out the gate. It provided a 10x within the first week. It retraced 80%, and we're just finally seeing its first areas of accumulation. We could make some arguments about poor, let's say, token distribution economics, but either way, what it does is represent a fantastic opportunity for anyone who did not get in at the IDO to accumulate small versions. Now, I cannot stress enough the importance of understanding this quote. Tails, I only lose a little. Heads, I win. Okay, what do we mean by that? There's something so beautiful about the sentiment of asymmetry. Asymmetry is this fantastic, very difficult area of life to understand, often because asymmetry is exponential and has a very convex movement, right? So convex like this. Whoop. Oh, let's draw it in here. Here, this is what convex looks like. This is convex. This would be concave. Asymmetry can be concavity or convexity. It really depends on the way you're appearing. What would be a market cycle? This would be distribution, where you're talking about convexity. This would be accumulation, where you're talking about, distribution would be concavity, accumulation would be convexity. Now, I apologize. I happen to love math. So what does that mean? Okay, let's use Mercurial as an example. And Gary Vee, right? If you listen to Gary Vee closely, and if you haven't, I think you should. One of the things he talks about is why he didn't make an investment into Uber. And Gary says, look, I almost always cut checks for $25,000 into startup companies, right? Now, for a lot of you, $25,000 might be too much money. For some of you, it might be fairly easy amount of capital to spend. It really depends on where you are in your cycle. Maybe it's $2,500. Maybe it's only $250. Maybe it's only $25. But whatever you can afford to lose, this is your tails, I only lose a little. So Gary Vee commonly makes a $25,000 investment into venture capital funds, right? He didn't invest into Uber. But Gary, you would have only lost your average venture capital check. And that check today would be worth billions and billions of dollars. One of the fun things about convexity is once it starts to move up, you have an infinite or asymmetric room for upside potential, and it is almost impossible to grasp what that means until you just wait it out and are patient. So I highly suggest for any of you that are interested and are meditating, take this quote and repeat it over. Tails, I only lose a little. Heads, I win. Heads, I win. Tails, I only lose a little. Heads, I win. Tails, I only lose a little. And understand that asymmetry, convexity to the upside or concavity to the downside, is really how this game works, right? So if you put in 25 grand into Uber, you can only lose 25 grand, but you could have made billions. Same thing with Bitcoin in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. Had you dropped in 25 grand, you could have only lost $25,000 or 2,500, again, whatever suits your revenue strategy. But the room for upside is asymmetric. Yes, you were going to get some wrong. Maybe Soul Rise is a complete failure 3 years from now. Maybe it's not, right? So what am I willing to lose? Basically, that's what you should start with. Tails, I only lose a little. What is the smallest amount of money or the largest amount of money that you were willing to play with? For Gary Vee, it was $25,000 per venture capital check. And Gary Vee has a lot of money, right? So understand that you don't even need to cut a huge check. A $25,000 check for him would have turned into billions of dollars had he cut it into Uber. At that point, he should have just said, hey, fuck it. Who cares? I can only lose this much. If you lead with this strategy and you really, really understand what this sentiment means, this is one of the greatest like little tidbits in an investment strategy that you can ever comprehend. If you are, again, even if you're not meditating, sit down for 20 minutes and really think about what this means in a world of asymmetry and convexity. And I guess for concavity's purpose, well, you can only lose 25 grand no matter what happens. Don't even sell at that point. Like, who cares? I'll let it go all the way to the goddamn bottom. I mean, Warren Buffett famously bought a huge piece of Encyclopedia Britannica, and he let it go all the way to zero. Also because he didn't want to screw the company over. He owned a fair chunk of them and figured, well, fuck, I can only lose so much, right? It's a very, very, very important part of understanding our investment thesis at the Arcane Bear that makes things so valuable. Whatever is that I can only lose a little part of your strategy, that's what you want to focus on. Not how much I win if I'm right. Not, oh my God, if I can make billions if I invest this much. Be okay with what you are willing to lose on your investment, and you will find a level of strategy you never knew existed. Serum looking good right at the bottom of its previous trading range. Also in what now again appears to be a very beautiful accumulation channel with the falling wedge as well. We've had our breakout. We're looking for a higher move to around $5.40 to complete our SOS and LPS statements, but everything is looking good there. Cardano, again, what I like about Cardano and Ethereum is that they have a very similar story. Here I was feeling bearish until we had that final break above the point of control. And again, it's just good to be patient. And more importantly, have a month-over-month strategy of accumulation, basically regardless of what the price is. Again, if we go back to Bitcoin and we assume this long-term horizon of assets that you are interested in, effectively every step along the way, you should just be buying assets you're interested in and fundamentally ignoring the price. At the end of the day, you will do much better in the long term playing that game. So Cardano, well above its point of control now. Again, we had our targets there for I think $5 to $10. Let's run another Fibonacci here. Let's go from the top of the buying climax all the way down to our selling. Yeah, our 4236 extends all the way to $6. Absolute insanity. Remember, we are already in the exact middle of the bull market. It is going to happen very quickly. We're going to see a lot of a potential lot of upside. Again, everyone's feeling greedy and bullish at this moment, so keep that in mind. But we do see the signs. So we can't go to like $50 Cardano or something ridiculous this run, or $10 Cardano this run. It just doesn't make sense, because we're already up so high from where we started, right? If you go back and you reverse and you watch our channel from way back here, let's say April, when we started to scream that the bull market was taking place and you wanted to be like basically all in, we were already up 4,000% on Cardano. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. It is so high, right? So going even higher is even more ridiculous. So understand that getting into these like $3 to $5 ranges is likely our peak for this market cycle. Matic as well also appears to have, again, this kind of reaccumulation after decline. We dropped really quite low, 73 cents here, and back up to $1. I have a hard time believing on the long term of some of the L2 stuff. It's hard to say, well, what happens as Ethereum upgrades into Ethereum 2.0? How important are these off chains just because they're cheaper? You're going to find niches. It's a difficult strategy to think that over the long term, some of these things will succeed just because they're successful today, right? Ethereum could fail miserably still and be replaced by Avalanche for all I know. Beta, cassette, DVDs, MP3s, and then now all you have is a cell phone, right? Cameras, what else? You got cameras, calculators, video cameras. How many devices fit in your cell phone right now, right? So often what you'll see is maybe Matic and a bunch of these other things will just end up packaged up into one deal later on down the line. Okay, We're going to get a little boring and look at the traditional markets today. Wow, the volatility index has been staying very stable, which is great to see. I'm not particularly concerned with anything getting crazier. Now, in the fall, just in general, you're probably going to see a lot of fear due to the lack of vitamin D in people. That's as deep as I'll go into that sentiment. So I do suspect that we're going to get a nice peak out here, probably into November, and then again into December, and then I think we'll calm back down into January, February, March. It'd finally go back down to our previous areas of, let's call it normal. The dollar index, interesting to see. Dollar strong, Bitcoin strong. Again, anyone who was talking about how the dollar and the Bitcoin are inversely correlated, clearly that's not true. The S&P 500 put in new highs again the other day as we closed in on Friday. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Although we do see declining volume in the S&P 500, I'm not going to bet against this. We have seen breakouts like this before. If you go back into our Ethereum chart, where were we? Let's go on the, here we are on the 6 hour. Okay, yeah. Here, just as a kind of a rough show, I'm not going to get it perfect here. We had this kind of rising channel in Ethereum. I do suspect that the S&P 500 is actually producing something kind of similar, where what we're going to do is we're going to have a kind of a blowout peak here, and we're going to see new highs for the S&P 500 consistently. I've talked about this only up mentality. They have no choice but to just keep printing capital. On the long term here too, when we go and we compare the M2 monetary supply, which again is basically how many dollars are being printed, there is an identical correlation here that takes place. Let's scroll back out a little bit so we can have a bit more data. There we go. Okay. So here, the orange line is the monetary supply. This is how much dollars they are printing. And here's the growth of the S&P 500. It's basically identical. This to me signals one thing. They're not going to stop printing. The markets are going to continue to go up. Bitcoin's price will continue to go up. It'll go through its volatile market cycles. The S&P 500 can probably still double from here. You have to remember that as Wyckofians, we had a 20-year accumulation cycle between 1990 and 2015 before we broke out of this trading range. There is a shit ton of room for us to go, because effectively from 2014 to 2020, we are only about 6 years into this up cycle after a 20-year accumulation cycle. That is enormous. We're still going to go a lot higher in the S&P 500. Anyone who thinks we're going to drop lower, I think, has missed the boat with understanding what the fuck is going on in the markets. We have basically only ever gone up, both in the 2000 crash back here, and in the 2008 crash. These were basically, again, just times to accumulate and get perfect market cycles before we went on a massive bull market. Again, it solidifies our thesis that a bear market is when you should be accumulating, and that's about it. Again, the fact that they're printing capital and the markets are going up, I think is going to go on for longer than people think. In 2016, I adjusted my thesis and I said, hey guys, we're going to go only up. And there are a lot of people making videos that, oh my God, the market is so overvalued. We're way too high. It's going to come back down. Look how far back down we could go. And they were clearly wrong. Well, what made them wrong? This fucking orange line made them wrong. People don't understand that the confidence in the US dollar is going to be very hard to wane, because right now there is like 7 to 8 billion people. Now, if something goes dramatically wrong, we get hit by an asteroid, we get hit by a solar flare. Yes, the markets could collapse. Everything could collapse. We could go back to using shells and cacao seeds as money. But barring that, it's hard to see how that would happen. Okay, the NASDAQ also had a new high on Friday. I'm not gonna bet against these rising wedges, most people think that they're bearish, but when you're moving in, when you have a rising wedge like this through a trading range, it's not always intelligent to think that they are bearish, because they often break up even further to the upside. And we take our previous theories here, idea from the S&P 500 into the, okay, they can only print more US dollars and try to create velocity into the system. That's probably what they're going to do. Okay, I'll take the last little bit of today's episode to go over any thoughts, questions, or any alternative assets you guys might be interested in. Hey, shout out to Ken Bosak leaving a $100 super chat. Thanks for that. I should probably go spend that on buying some of your NFTs. Shout out to you again for having so much fun in the NFT sector. I try to stay in my little wheelhouse of venture capital, but I just wanted to point out to you, Ken, that A, you look great in a kilt, my brother. And B, I'm proud of you for rallying in the NFT game. Oh, check out owens.nft. It's a company that we are fans of as well, for their onboarding process into the Wax NFT space. I know you're a big Wax fan as well. For those of you that don't know, follow Ken Bosak. He is a wild and crazy person in the crypto sector. One of the things I like about this space is it's full of weirdos. It's full of people who were, let's say, open-minded. Well, no, I'm not telling him I love him because he gave me $100. No, I don't give it. I tell Ken I love him no matter what he did. I think Ken is hilarious. I love people that have character and personality. That's just a personal thing for me, I guess. Okay, let's take a look at a few of your guys' thoughts and questions. Jeremy Waterman says, between TO, BitBoy, and Jeb, I feel like I get a balanced perspective on the crypto market. You guys are invaluable. I'm happy to be a part of your journey as you guys grow and learn. I'm such a privilege to be able to share my learning process with you, and that you guys find value from that. So thank you. Spiral Crunch says, thank you, Arcane Bear. Everyone give us those thumbs up. It helps other people later on down the stream find this information they might be looking for. Can you go over GRT? Okay, I will write that in. We'll take a look. Number of things market is going to dump hard. Yeah, number of things you are just wrong. Sorry about that. Well, I'm not sorry. Hopefully you learned the lesson of why you were wrong, and then you can fix out when the market is going to dump, because it's not yet. It will. I mean, look, you can be a broken clock there. Number of things. The market is going to dump. Well, eventually you'll be right, but not today. Xylotonic says, Arcane Bear, thanks for your audiobook playlist a couple of months ago. The Dan Dow Investor was great. I highly suggest all those books. I still am trying to put together our book list. I love reading. I think in 2020 I read like 32 books, but the pandemic was boring, so I just sat and read all the time. I'm like, yay, reading. Anyways, get out, get some vitamin D in the sun. I support that message for sure. We'll go over and then we'll look at a few more charts with everyone. Thoughts on VeChain, GRT. Okay, I'm adding those to the list. Fidel Vakiria Iza says, I've been dollar cost averaging during the last 4 months. Would you suggest taking profits along the way, or wait and hold with the knowledge crypto probably will go to a bear market? One of the things most people makes as a mistake is that they try to outsmart the markets. Like, I'm going to buy here, I'm going to exit there. Look, Fidel, one of the best things you can do is make sure that you are sleeping well and that you don't feel crazy in the markets. So if you are up in profits, then one of the best ways to remove any risk is just to take out your principal. Now, I bought a bunch more Ethereum this morning, just because the market looked so perfect. I like to wait for those times. You're like, oh, well, Tio, you didn't get in right at the bottom. I was like, yeah, but I've been buying every month still. It hasn't changed my monthly strategy. I just added a little bit more because I liked the way the charts look. So in terms of selling, it's not necessarily the greatest strategy to try to exit everything, removing your principal. Like, say you invested 10 grand and now you've got $100,000 worth. If you take that 10 grand out, no matter what happens, you can't lose anything. All you have done now is have more assets and that 10 grand you started with. So I think removing the principal is a good way to go. For me, I personally rely on my old entrepreneurial skills, which is I have in my past built businesses that have made a lot of money and then failed miserably. And I've had to start over again. And it usually takes like 2 to 3 years to do that. Also happens to line up with how long a bear market takes. So I always try to make sure I have enough capital for my businesses to operate. Me, I don't spend any money. I own my own business. I own my own house. I own all of my assets. Well, technically I don't. I have corporations that own my property. And yeah, by the way, you should not own things in your name. You should own them under corporations. And we're going to post a podcast with like how to bank offshore, how to open offshore businesses, etc. But it's a longer conversation. But the point of this is you should have assets that work for you. So I have $0 in rent every month, right? My total bills are like $700 or something ridiculously low like that. And I don't spend money on anything. Like this is a $250 guitar and I can make it sound like a $10,000 car. Who cares how much it costs? It's a guitar. It sounds, anyways. So I think finding your flow is extremely important. Again, for me, that has been 3 to 5 years of my businesses operating so that I can do whatever I want. I buy cheap clothing and I look great. I don't need to dress myself in Gucci with Louis Vuitton belts. I don't give a shit. I don't need to put $100,000 watches here. I don't care. If I actually, to tell you the truth, I think, anyways, do whatever you want. I don't like, if you're a huge fan of Rolex watches, go do that. If you want to buy Gucci, you go do that. It's not my thing. What I'm suggesting you do is do you. I just want to make that clear. I'm not trying to like rag on anybody. You do you. I'm stoked for you if you were doing you. That's great. That's great. Okay, next questions. JB says, I think you're right. As in probabilities, we might go parabolic. Currently, it's been working out well. Harlow, great to see you, brother. Sending you love from Costa Rica. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad to hear you, Medellin. I need to come visit soon. Kev C says, not much info on Splinterlands. Anticipating your video. I had a podcast booked with them, but I got a little sick, sore throat. Maybe I was making out with cute girls or something, and I caught a little bit of a cold. So I missed the podcast, but I'm back. We're going to rebook it. We've got Splinterlands coming on the show. I'm interested in the NFT sector. Oh, again, Fever, one of the NFT investments we made. Again, I'm a little bit silly, but Fever is one of the NFT projects we invested in the private group. It's already at, what is this, like a 12 to 13x? Yeah, it's already at 1,100% in 31 days. So for all of you that are in the private den who are able to capture a 10x in less than 30 days, hats off to you. That's why we like heads I win, tails I only lose a little. If had you invested only $1,000, it would be worth $11,182 today. Had you invested 10 grand, again, whatever you're willing to lose, it would be worth $100,000 today. So keep that in mind. Okay, back to the questions here. Watches can be a great investment. I don't think that they're great investments, but they are definitely ways to maintain asset evaluations. I think that in general, one of the things you should do is, like, for instance, we're working on building an ice bath in my house right now. I'm so stoked for that. Like that to me as an asset is worth more than the little bit of money it costs to build. So invest in things that make your life better. If you think having a spinner of watches makes your health and life better, you do that. I personally would rather own an ice bath. That's me, right? Whatever floats your fucking boat, I support you doing that. If it makes you happy, follow it. Okay, what's left for the bull run is expected to end. Yeah, we're midway through the market. I suspect we're looking at another 200 days, 300 days, in which another approximately how long it took to get to where we are today. Bear, do you ever get to California? I used to live in Forestville and Sebastopol in Hawaii. I got kicked out at one point for driving a very nice vehicle, dressed head to toe in Lakers. I was driving a Porsche Cayenne twin turbo, 458 horsepower, and I was a little. This was back in 2000 and fucking what year was it? Jeez, 2007. I got kicked out of the United States, so I'm head to toe driving like at the time it was a brand new vehicle. It was like I think it was an $80,000 vehicle at the time. Head to toe in Lakers gear, which is just so cocky. Purple and gold, Ray-Bans on, and I've got a little bit of ganja in my tobacco pouch, like a quarter of a gram. I'm not an American, so I get instantly deported. So I'm no longer allowed in the United States. Otherwise, I did love it there, and if I could visit, I would. My general legal counsel says I can visit, but I haven't tried since then. Jason says, hey Tio, I love your videos. Do you trade futures much? I do when I'm looking for entertainment. I much more prefer venture capital. Very, very high success rate, extraordinary gains, and I can only lose what I invest. Whereas leverage, you can lose all of your collateral. I would much rather play with venture capital. It's significantly better. That's my opinion. Low leverage at the very beginning of a bull market could definitely be a smart idea if you are skilled at that. Although the average individual is not, you're much better off making investments. The fact that you've never used leverage before means I would say don't use it. Just because you see other people making money using it, it probably. Again, if you just can funnel money into a failing leverage position, eventually you'll get it right. And that is a way to go. People do that. You can actually do that. I prefer venture capital. That's my personal opinion. N13 says, Tio, you were the best. I appreciate that. Yeah, and again, I do not suggest leverage. It's for the very advanced, and if you're doing that, why not just invest in something like Fever, where you can get a 10x, and you don't need a 10x leverage position. You could only risk $1,000, and it goes up 10x. It's the fucking fun part about asymmetric upside. You don't need leverage. It's going so high. It's so high. I love that you're in Costa Rica. My wife and I got engaged there at the base of Arnall. I love Arnall. That's my favorite place to go. Congratulations on you and your partner's wedding. Think you'll ever make it back to Canada? I will sadly no, not anytime soon. I love my family, but if I want to visit them, I'm flying them here instead. Tio, is there any chance I can visit you? Yes. So actually that's kind of a fun idea here as well. So let me guys show you something. So a good friend of mine has been building a retreat center here. Okay, so this is, we are going to have an Arcane Bear retreat in April of next year. It is in Costa Rica. I think we have room for about 18 people. Effectively. So these are the dates that are booked. We're not booked on here because we're a private retreat, but we're going to see what they offer. They offer 2 nights of ayahuasca, 1 night of DMT. For those of you that don't know, these things are entirely legal and regulated in Costa Rica. There are people that offer psychedelic mushrooms legally in Costa Rica, board sort of certified physicians, the whole 9 yards. So this is where we're going to be hosting our retreat. This is Daniel. Here's one of my best friends. Beautiful area. Again, fits 18 people. So this will be a time where you could come hang out. It's got a beautiful view of the sunset. They've got waterfall, hiking, horseback riding, zip lining. They're about an hour and a half away from the international airport. It's absolutely stunning rooms. And beautiful, beautiful views. So this will be the time to come visit Tio if you would like. The tickets are not going to be cheap per se, as we can only fit 18 people. It's going to be a private group. We're going to focus on meditations and yoga and probably some of these other things that they offer here, right? There's massage. We'll have on-night massage therapists. We've got, again, the adventure waterfall park. You can do crazy things like combo They do offer them there at the retreat center. It'll be on your own discretion. You'll have to sign your own waivers with the retreat. It has nothing to do with us. You could do whatever you would like to that they offer again. But anyways, so that will be the main point. If you're interested in joining that, we're probably going to take an RSVP list. You can email daniel@arcanebear.com if you're interested. Again, it's going to be limited because of that. I don't know, nothing more to say on that one. How are you going to take profits? I'm set in cash for the next, well, again, not me. We've got to be very clear how we book these ideas. I look at my business as not me, okay? I spend like no money. What do I need to buy? I own everything I need. I can do whatever I want. I live in one of the world's most beautiful countries. Like, what do I want? Like, I want an ice bath. Like, so you have to measure where you are, right? I don't actually own anything, technically speaking. I'm a majority shareholder in corporations that own everything. Just keep in mind how that works, because what do I need to own anything for? Like my $5 okay, I own my $5 t-shirt. And the rock I put around my neck. This has always been my rock bottom. In the first business I started when I was living in Guatemala in 2011, and we had our first good year, I bought this as my rock bottom. I was like, I will never sell unless I'm forced to sell. And then this is my start over. And this was I think what, $3,000 at 49 grams of 28 karat gold, the highest, 99 point. Anyways, whatever. The point of this is this is one of the last assets I own, because you should want your corporations and trust to own your assets. We'll do a podcast about that later. What's the price for the retreat? We're pricing it out. We're not done yet. We're just trying to get a rough estimate. We found a place. We're still looking at other places that might be able to hold up to 30 to 50 people, so we can bring more and reduce the price. But again, our goal is to focus on basically 7 days of meditation, ecstatic dance, yoga, and extraordinarily healthy food, because that's what I need. And anyone who else thinks that meditating for 4 hours a day sounds like a good idea, awesome. I would like you to join that with me. So we're working on the price points right now, and we're seeing if we can actually maybe scale up and bring it down. But with only 18 people, we're going to be fairly selective. I apologize that we can't do it bigger the first year, and maybe we can. I'm not a retreat person. I've never hosted a retreat. We just want to find a way for us to kind of work together. And the corporation podcast will come out. I've got like 10 podcasts. Tomorrow, we've got Do Kwon from Terra Luna. We've got Enzyme Finance. We've got Naja Roberts. We've got Wendy O. All recorded, and I haven't been able to get them out quick enough. So we'll be pumping those out soon. Crypto Mojo Life says, I'm confused by something you said at the beginning of the stream. It implied that one who trades doesn't understand the thesis of accumulation in the long game. I generally agree with you, but what? Look, trading and investing are very different, right? Investment is a long-term thesis. And yes, we take profits, reallocate so we can manage business, but that's not trading. Like, I'm not trading on a day-over-day basis. Okay. Hey guys, tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to be back. I'm going to do a bunch of episodes this week because I want to dive deeper. And let's not end it all. Sure, let's just see how long we can go live for. I've got my sparkling water, orange juice here. Let's see here. Let's end with some music. You guys are fantastic. I appreciate that. Okay. Let's I wonder how we should do this. Okay. I want to try something here for tomorrow's episode. So for all of you that are online right now, first give us a thumbs up. And then go follow us on Twitter. And then I'm going to make a tweet right now, and it's going to say, what tokens and altcoins should we cover tomorrow? I want you to leave in the comments of this tweet everything you would like me to look at. And then also like and retweet. That way we get as many people kind of focusing together. So drop that your comments on like, okay, like you're like, Tio, I love Avalanche. Let's take a look at Avalanche, okay? Comment there what you would like to see. And then that way I can kind of get a group vote of everything you guys would like me to go over tomorrow. And then, yeah, hopefully that will be a way that we can aggregate the data that you would like me to look at. And then I can do like specific altcoin episodes where I look at whatever you guys want, a community curated content. Thinking of another C word, crypto conversation, a community curated crypto conversation. I tried my best there. Anyways, Steve with the Arcane Bear. I'm going to end with just a little bit of guitar. I think it's in tune. Isn't that called a mimosa? No, mimosa has alcohol in it. This is just sparkling water, not sparkling wine. Yes, oh yeah, there you go. Awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you all for joining us today. I always have a pleasure doing these. It's great to see the markets are in such a bullish sentiment. Everyone's feeling happy when that happens. I'm going to leave you guys with just a little bit of music, I think. Let's see here. Arcane Bear. Give us a thumbs up if you like the slap guitar. Slap guitar. Thank you guys all for joining us and appreciating the music. We'll see you on the next episode.